Hey guys, it's Michael. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to a new video. And in this video, we want to explore the science behind elbow sleeves and we want to explore if they really do increase your performance. This video is sponsored by King of Weighted because we have a very nice promotion for you. When this video is online, the next Monday, we will start with giving out a free pair of SL Pro performance wrist straps to every pair of King of Weighted sleeves. And it doesn't matter if you're getting a pair of stiff sleeves or a pair of half stiff sleeves. As long as stock lasts, you will get a free pair of wrist wraps to every sleeve order. So also you can increase your dip performance with the best sleeves on the market. In order to explore how sleeves can increase your performance, we will take a look at three different categories. The first one, the one with the biggest impact on your performance, will be the soft tissue inhibition. The second one is the warmth that is provided from wearing the sleeves. And the third one, which is open to discussion, is the increased proprioception of wearing your sleeves, and so how wearing a sleeves can change and then also increase your technical abilities of a certain lift. First category will be the soft tissue inhibition, or in other words, the interface contact that we gain in a joint from wearing sleeves. And there's also a study that gives us a pretty nice carryover to understand the use of sleeves is. And I will link the study in the description. And they modeled a deep squat. What they found out is that with an increase in the interface contact between the posterior thigh and the shank, so this area here, in deeper squats, so with increased knee flexion, the joint forces in the patella and in the quad tendon decreased by up to 40%. So because of the better force transfer, because of the bigger interface contact between the upper and the lower leg, the forces within the joint decreased a lot. And now let's take a look what a sleeve actually does. For that, I will take the half stiff sleeve here, put it in. And with the half stiff, we have the stiff pad here on the inside. And now I slowly bend my arm. And you can see now, if I reach around 90-degree elbow flexion, the contact surface compared to this side where I have barely any contact surface, just very little skin laying over here, compared to this total new area. If you can see, if I stick my finger in here, I gain like 1.5 centimeters of more area where force can be transferred. So the force that my joint and my muscles then need to create and transfer decreases the more contact surface I get here. And that is why the bottom position with the increasing contact surface here, or interface contact, is getting so much easier because we actually gain some real support here from that increased surface, and so the better force transmission without the need of the muscles doing it, because the material now transfers the force directly. And now you might also understand why the thickness of sleeve material is a very important point and why it is kept at 7 millimeters in competition. So it does not explain why exactly it's 7, but why it's kept at a certain thickness. Because if we would increase the thickness further, we would gain more and more interface contact, and we would get this interface contact much earlier, which would drive performance, but also limit range of motion from a certain point. And that is also the main advantage of those full stiff sleeves that you now see very big dippers wearing. What the full sleeve does is, due to the full stiff material on both sides, the crease with that super thick material gets even bigger. So if you take a look from the front side, it now goes from here to here, all the way with the thick material. So there is a bit of a performance advantage compared to the half stiffs. a tiny bit because the crease where we get this interface contact is increased a bit. So more force can be transferred directly through that added surface. The next very interesting performance increasing effect of sleeves is that they warm up your muscles and keep them warm. We know from many different studies, one I've linked to in the description, that an increment in muscle temperature correlates with an increase in performance. So a warmer muscle has more strength potential than a colder muscle. And as the sleeves will, after the warm-up, also keep that muscle warm, and it does not cool down if you keep the sleeve on, you will achieve a performance increment from the warmth. It's more of an lesser effect if we compare it to the first one we spoke about, but still it's very relevant as that will increase your performance throughout the workout. The last point that I want to talk with you about is the change in proprioception. Due to the tightness of the sleeves and the material compressing the joint, we gain awareness of the joint. Due to the material filling up inside the joint, our brain constantly receives feedback how that joint is moving. That means we have an increment in proprioception and we are better in guessing what that joint is doing, and so we are better able to control that joint. Now, this does not necessarily need to increase your performance. For some, it can even throw off performance due to that new signals that you gain. It could mess up your depth, it could mess up your center of mass a bit, as you're now getting much more input from the elbow joint compared to not wearing sleeves. So for some, this is a big advantage as this increases your technical abilities. For others, it could be a disadvantage as it throws off the technique that you are used to. But overall, I would put it more as a benefit, as from my experience, especially with softer sleeves like the half-stiff one, it's more of an advantage, and the stiffer and thicker the sleeves get, the more it can throw you off because the more it will change the actual movement pattern because of the material. So just showing you again, when I go down, you can see the contact surface increases. Now, my brain gets more signals from my elbow, so I know exactly where I am in space, and I can push up with much better force transfer in that bottom position. So it's a bit of a non-linear assistance curve. So it's less on top, much more when I go deeper, and then once I press up, it gets lower again. Now, the valid question is, if your goal is not performance increments, but just building up muscles, do we benefit from sleeves or do we not need them? And that's a bit tricky to answer. The short version is you probably don't need them, but it can still be a bit of an advantage. Let's take a look at what happens if we go down here. We know that the joint forces in the elbow is decreasing. So in order to provide the same stimulus in our elbow joint, in order to grow it, we need more weight. That will also lead to an increment in stimulus in all the other pushing muscles. So overall, also from a hypertrophy standpoint, we could increase overall stimulus from using sleeves, but of course it's not needed. And on the downside is, of course, there is a bit of a higher risk involved as the absolute loads will increase. But as I barely know a single individual that is not interested in increasing performance alongside building up muscle tissue, the sleeve is an excellent choice for both of them in order to combine the best of both worlds and to also load that elbow joint a bit more in the end range. What you can do is have days where you train with sleeves and days where you train without sleeves, or even longer training cycles where you train with sleeves and training cycles where you train without sleeves. I do it in the following way: that I have a sleeveless day, as you know from my vlogs, and a day with sleeves. That works pretty good for me, as I then can combine the best of both worlds, and I don't need to work that heavy from the performance increment of sleeves on both days, but I also stay adapted to a very nice dipping technique also with sleeves, as we talked about the change proprioception from using thicker sleeves. Summing that up, overall, I'm a pretty big fan of using elbow sleeves. The individual question now that everyone needs to answer individually is, how stiff and how thick should my sleeves be in order for me to combine the best of not getting a change in technique that might throw off your dip versus a performance increment in the bottom position. The best combination from both of these advantages will be a half stiff sleeve, because here you have that thick pad on the inside, which will create a very big surface area. So your force can be better transferred, but it's also easy to get in. It's not as thick overall, so a bit more comfortable to wear, and you can get easy in as the outside is a bit more flexible. If you are, or if you don't really care about comfort and about a slightly change in your technique, then the full stiff will be your sleeve of choice. It's harder to get in if you have a size that also provides a bit of a compression, but it will give you very much of an assistance in the bottom position, even more than with the half stiff sleeves, as those are very, very thick. Now this is one size too big for me. As you can see, I can get it easy on. You can see here it's very hard to bend the elbow, and I can't bend it any further than this. So it's almost a hard block in that bottom position. So you definitely won't fail in that position with a sleeve like that. So it's investment side, comfort side, and of course individual decisions. But remember, from tomorrow on, to each pair of sleeves you will get also your SL Pro wrist wraps for free.